Good morning, wherever you are, whenever you are. This is 4046, and this is part 2 in, I'm not quite sure how many parts this series will be, but the first series I've ever done, so bear with me as I prepare material for my videos. As you can see on my side, I'm working on some Warhound Titans. I've got another Warhound Titan which is a bit further along the way. The new ones are huge compared to the original ones. In the next video I'll show you my original Warhounds, or at least one of them that's painted anyway. Decided to do Legio Mortis because, you know, it's great fun having the bad guys sometimes. Anyhow, thank you for those that have subscribed. That is greatly appreciated. We'll continue to make content for you and everybody else that watches these videos. If you are watching my channel, please subscribe. Thank you for those that have subscribed so far, and thank you very much for my new subscribers, and a shout out to you. Appreciate your support in geeing me up for what I can show you. Today I have something from First Edition Epic, which I've had for many years, which is a compilation of their monthly magazines, White Dwarf, which shows you battles and armies of that particular side. It also gives you the ability to photocopy certain cards, because there's one or two cards in here which they highlight. Now, the old version of Epic used the card system, and I'll just illustrate here. So all those cards represent that army. However, whilst going through a White Dwarf yesterday, I noticed that the photos that they use are not always everything they've got. One of them, for example, had a Mech by Gargant and 3 Stompers, which were on the cards, but they're actually missing from the photo, which is sort of a slight anomaly. I think that's something that back in those days it was a smaller publication than it became, shall we say. I mean, from 191 onwards, you started getting card sections in the White Dwarfs that you could use. They have actually, in a lot later White Dwarfs, they went away from that, but that wasn't a bad idea. Unfortunately, it just made the White Dwarf unwieldy. It was the first new White Dwarf I ever got, because I went to Games Day 1995, and they had a lot of epic goodies that had not been released at that particular time in 1995. They were heading towards flying units. They were heavily concentrating on flying units. Now, that in itself, before Epic returned, became Aeronautical Imperialis, which is a standalone game, but you can use all those flying vehicles in Legions Imperialis. Anyway, getting back to this is First Edition Epic, although personally I'd call it the Second Edition, and I'll say for why in my previous video. I mean, officially when Titan Legions came out, that was considered Second Edition, but this is before the good old days of Titan Legions, and this is when you just concentrated on the forces you had. I mean, for example, an old-fashioned Warhound is the all-metal classic Warhound. You used to get this in a blister pack of 2. Today you can still get them in boxes of 2, but the price point they have somewhat increased. However, the size is pretty good. They seem to be double the size of the original, if that makes any sense at all. They've added extra weapons to them. A lot of these Titan weapon systems, they have got. The only thing that I do miss is, and I'd love them to bring it back, is the Corvus Assault Pod, which I think I briefly touched upon, which was a pod on the Titan's arm, normally be a Warlord Titan, with a bunch of Terminators on board. Now you may ask, oh well, you know, what's the point when they can teleport? But teleport isn't always the best delivery system, and sometimes the teleports can go wrong, whereas the Terminators are physically there and ready to go, and I do hope they bring that in, but that's something for a later date. At the moment they're concentrating on the infantry side. So back in the day, Chaos was strange. The reason I'll say that is, if you look upon that photo, you've got Beastmen, you've got some terrible models. I mean, the pink horrors are awful. I mean, it's great they're represented, but they're absolutely awful. And the trolls, never. Ugh, you can see how much it's changed. I mean, great little models, don't get me wrong, because those Chaos plastic boxes became, they started to go for silly money on eBay some time ago. It would have been nice to have had some of those, but I was more sort of for the Marines. The initial ones I think I painted as Blood Angels, as this particular force represents, and that tank that was telling you about yesterday's Stormhammer. I mean, absolutely insane. I mean, 4 battle cannons. Why? But as you can see, with the Space Marines, they kept the Dreadnought for Legion Imperialis because it's set in the 31st millennium. Originally, with Adeptus Titanicus, it was set in the 31st millennium between Imperials and Loyalists, and that's why the Titans hadn't changed or mutated that much. It is a shame, and I will have to unearth that, but at the moment that's in storage, but I will acquire that possibly for the next video. But as you can see, again, it's all to do with cards, like the early versions of what would become known as deck building. The only good thing about this deck building is at least you had something to represent. I mean, in the old Space Marine Battle Company box, you used to get rhinos. No, you didn't get any rhinos in that one. No, you got Terminators, Assault Marines, Devastators and normal Marines, and then there was another one where you got just Marines, but it also came with rhinos. In the one with the Terminators, you also got bikes in there as well. You didn't get attack bikes. Attack bikes weren't a thing back then, or they were, pardon me, but they were only in 40k. Thunderhawk gunship, I used to have one of these a long time ago, but the Thunderhawk gunship has come a long way since then. We've got a box with wings, more or less, and then obviously your classic dreadnoughts, which with their power fields. Now, this is not a bad little thing to have. You probably maybe still be able to pick these up on eBay. I suspect their pricing is probably not too bad. I got this as a job lot, hence the reason I got it. There is a second one as well, which I've got the White Dwarf, which I was looking through yesterday. But also in this particular time period, and they still sort of do it today, they show you a map of what's going on, who's winning, what happened in that turn, if you don't want to read through it. Sometimes you can sort of glean stuff from these. Sadly, most of the people that contributed to this are no longer with the company and gone on to do their own things. I mean, this is the biggest shame as well. Now, in Legions Imperialis, they could have done Ulanor, or they may do Ulanor and have Gargants and Orc Boys and Mech Boy Gargants and all the good stuff. And I think they've lost out on an opportunity there. This one's in particularly special because at this time Ghazghkull Thraka had appeared, and Ghazghkull Thraka was represented in Epic, even with his boss banner. So they did pay attention to it. It's quite an expensive card because it's almost the same price as a 2 Warhound Titans, which that's quite something in its own right. And unfortunately they've gone, but they're not forgotten, and that's the Leagues of Voltan, or the Squats, with 2 Imperial are they Baneblades? Yes, they are. Two Baneblades and all their assorted things. Also, I need to get them out my box and give a little video on some of the models. Back in the day, you could actually collect these a lot easier than it is today. At that time, the boxes were, for a plastic box, was about £6. Was it? When I started, there were 5, then they went up to 6. It's such a shame because it had so much variety and so much depth, and it still has variety and depth, and the models are nice apart from the infantry and Legion Imperialis, but it's something that needs to change. It is very sad because as Epic 40,000 wasn't a hit and came towards an end, they were plans, and I've seen they're on Realm of Legends, if I believe rightly. I may put that as a description in the email. Well, I'm going to have to find it out. I'll probably put that in the next video. But it showed prototypes for Exodites, Eldar Exodites, which would have been quite exciting. I mean, a lot of the armies, when they got to Epic 40,000, they focused on Imperial Fists, and they focused on, obviously, the Orcs. However, not only did they do that, they did a refresh for the Imperial Army, and they had even like tank turret, tank commanders, little bits that you could stick on your tanks, which have slightly carried over to today. I mean, this is a Legion Imperialis Predator in progress, shall we say. A little bit fiddly, but they're like slightly bigger than the old models. I will do a size by size comparison in the next video. The Marines are not very good. The original ones you could get away with a little bit more, but because some of the posing in the current set, they're not that great. The things like the Commander and stuff are fine. Other YouTubers may have pointed out the issues as well with these. I mean, these are great. Don't get me wrong, the Titan side of things are brilliant because they're at a size that you can appreciate, but what they're like now with the infantry, you just make the bases as interesting as possible. Unfortunately, I haven't done that yet because I've only done one base of Marines and I'm in the process of doing the second base. But the basing is also really bad as well because the original basing had little slots, little holes, so you could marry it up, where these ones you don't. They're really, it's quite sad really, as I will point out. They're not on little stands. They've got little stands, but they're fiddly to stick to the bases. There's no guessing exactly what Legion I'm doing, but yes, it's something that will sort of expand upon bit by bit. If you can get hold of this would be great. This is several issues of White Dwarf, and they have taken the battle elements out. I think the first ever battle White Dwarf I ever bought had this particular battle report in it with, you know, before they fleshed out the Ultramarines, with a lot of units, and a Reaver Titan as well. The strange thing is, a lot of these do not have. Okay, there's an early one, I believe, where they use the entirety of the Studio Army with the Warlord Titan that you get in the box game. I believe I'll show the advert in the next video. This is only a short one. I hope you had a really great time and are sort of coping, because sometimes this time of year is not great for all people. And I hope that you get sort of slightly infused. Unfortunately, again, as with all these things, there is still, I've not really looked into it very much, but there is a continuation of Epic called NetEpic. So you can still buy lots of the old miniatures or 3D print them, because they are becoming more scarce with time. And use them in the NetEpic rules. There is a website for NetEpic. I have not been there I didn't really investigate it too much at the time when I found it. I'd like to think it still exists, but I will confirm for you in the next video whether it does. I do apologise for this slightly rushed video, but it was nice to put out something before the new year. Have a great 2024. May your Epic Gaming, if you're doing Epic Gaming, be fantastic. And please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for your time. This is 44.